Good morning, everybody, and welcome to your Cambridge Advanced Accelerator Monday morning motivational podcast. My name is Cheryl, and I am here to help you with all things connected to the Cambridge Advanced exam and moving your English up towards that C1 level or even C2 level. So if you're feeling a bit stuck at B2, this is the place for you. So this week, I want to talk about something that I see all the time with students, especially students at these higher levels. So if you've already got up to B2 level with your English, not a lot of people get to that level. So you should be proud of the level you have got to already. However, something I see a lot at these higher levels, and I've been guilty of this myself, is perfectionism. So what looks like perfectionism on the surface, and you know that kind of thing, I'll start speaking when my vocabulary is better, or I'll join the speaking sessions when I feel a bit more confident. I'll start preparing properly for the Cambridge Advanced exam when work is a bit calmer. I just need to improve my level a bit first before I start preparing for the exam. All of these things are examples of perfectionism. And it sounds logical, right? It sounds responsible, like you're being serious about your English. But here's a problem. A lot of the time, perfectionism is just procrastination wrapped up in a very sophisticated disguise. Perfectionism is just procrastination wrapped up in a fancy disguise. Because while we're waiting to feel ready, while we're researching vocabulary, while we're waiting for that perfect time to get started, to get ready, to do everything perfectly, we're not actually moving forward. I'll say that again. While we're waiting to feel ready, we're not actually moving forward. And this is what I see all the time with really smart, intelligent, capable, motivated students. In fact, I've got a student right now who started with us a couple of months ago. And she took that first step. Awesome. She's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start preparing for the exam. And she's actually been doing great. She's taken her kind of scores up in a couple of months, depending on the part of the exam, between 20 to 30%. So in reading, use of English, listening, and writing, she's now up at over 80% in every single one of those parts. Now, 60% is the pass mark in the Cambridge Advanced exam. 80% takes you to a grade A in the exam, C2 level, okay? So she's basically got C2 level, but she still feels that she's not prepared enough, that she's not ready enough to speak in English. And she told me a couple of weeks ago, I'm a bit scared to join the speaking sessions because I feel I need to learn more vocabulary first. I feel I need to get a little bit better first to feel more confident in myself before I start practicing my speaking. And this is such a perfect example of what happens when perfectionism starts to get in the way of progress. And this student, she's not alone, okay? This is a really common issue that people have, that we think that in order to be able to speak to a high level, that we need to feel ready before we can do it. But the truth is that you don't get confident and then speak. You speak, and then that's what creates the confidence. Speaking is a thing that is going to make her feel ready. So yes, there is that awkward time in the middle when you're pushing outside your comfort zone and you're trying new things and you're making mistakes, there is that awkward moment where you have to live with that kind of uncomfortableness. But by pushing past that, that's when you're going to see the real progress. And that's when you're going to start improving your vocabulary and everything around it. Okay? It's much more effective to start implementing things rather than waiting for that perfect time or that perfect amount of vocabulary to appear, because it's never going to come. You're never going to be able to learn all the vocabulary in English before you start speaking. There's never going to be a perfect time or moment in your life when you're not busy to start doing something. Okay? Much, much better to take imperfect action and just get started rather than wait for the perfect situation, the perfect moment to arise in your life. And as I said, I am guilty of doing this myself. I actually did this when I started Cambridge Conchero. I started this business during COVID times. And I spent tens of thousands of pounds on courses to get knowledge. I was watching training videos constantly. I was taking notes. I was learning strategies all about sales, marketing, business, content creation, how to make YouTube videos, how to edit, how to create websites. I was spending about 15 hours a day. I was getting up at 5 a.m. and working till 10 o'clock at night. And I was just learning, consuming all this information. And I kept telling myself, once I've learned how to do all these things, I will build a website. Once I've watched this 6-month training course on how to make YouTube videos and reels, I will start my Instagram account and I will start creating my YouTube account. Once I have learned how to create a course and I've built the entire course, I will start selling it to different students on this Instagram account that I haven't created yet. The thing is, knowledge, it feels productive. Learning feels like you're, putting in all this work and you're putting in all this effort. But I was missing the key part. I was missing the implementation. I was waiting for everything to be perfect, for my knowledge to be perfect, for the timing to be perfect before I started Cambridge Conchero. But I wasn't taking action. It would have been much better. And I wasted a couple of years when I could have been helping people. I wasted a couple of years in this kind of stuck in this perfectionism mode. And honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. I kick myself now when I look back because it seems so obvious, but when you're in that moment at the time, you think that you're doing the best thing. And I thought that I was doing the right thing. But it wasn't until I started taking action that I started truly learning. And it was taking that action, finding out what my mistakes were, and then learning from them and changing things that I got better. Okay, I got better and better at making videos and making Instagram posts. I'm still far from perfect, but by taking that action and learning from it, I'm improving every single time. I had absolutely no idea how to make a website, but step by step, by actually building one, that's how I learned. It's like, imagine trying to learn how to drive a car by just watching YouTube videos. Imagine watching thousands of hours of YouTube videos and being like, right, now I'm ready to start learning to drive. Now everything is perfect. Now I'm going to be able to drive perfectly and I'm going to get it right first time. Of course you're not. You're going to get behind that car and you're going to make mistakes. But the thing is, if we'd started 6 months ago, instead of watching a 6-month course on YouTube, we would be in a much better place now than by just watching videos and gaining knowledge, okay? And languages are exactly the same. Passing exams are exactly the same. Yes, we need that knowledge, that knowledge, but we need to implement it. We need to take action. And there's kind of a lot of science around this. This is not just my kind of Cheryl's rants and Cheryl's ideas on this topic, okay? There is this thing in psychology called analysis paralysis. It has a nice ringtone to it. Analysis paralysis. So when people overanalyze or overprepare and they delay action. And research tends to show that this over-preparation, over-analysis is a form of procrastination. Okay? And this procrastination is often because there is this fear of making mistakes. We want everything to be perfect. Our brain prefers a safe preparation over taking risky action. And this fear of making mistakes is what triggers in our brain this fight or flight response that we see from caveman times. We see from back when we were being chased by lions. If we see a lion, we're either going to fight it, or we're going to run away from it, or we're going to freeze, we're going to play dead and hope it doesn't eat us. And this is our natural kind of response, and how our nervous system responds and how it creates all those hormones, those stress hormones and things, getting you ready to run or fight. So our brain, when it goes into this kind of fight, flight, or this freeze response, your brain isn't trying to improve your English. It's trying to protect you from embarrassment and fear of making mistakes. So what we think we're doing is the safety of over-preparing for something with our English. For example, waiting until we have that perfect grammar or that perfect vocabulary before we start speaking or before we start preparing for the exam is actually our brain trying to protect us from making mistakes when we're speaking. So by over preparing, we're like, right, so now when I go and speak, everything is going to be perfect, not going to make a mistake, and nobody's going to laugh at me, or I'm not going to feel that everyone else is better than me and that I'm not good enough. Okay, this is what our brain is doing with this procrastination. And then adding to that, if we're like, okay, I'm going to stay in my safe, happy place, I'm going to do lots of research, watch lots of YouTube videos, learn lots of vocabulary before I get started. What starts to happen then is our brain starts to get overwhelmed by too much information. We're like, oh my God, there's so much vocabulary. I'm never going to learn all this vocabulary. I'm never going to be ready. There's too many options. There's 20 different teachers out there on YouTube and they're all saying different things about how it's best to prepare for the exam. And we start having this mental overload, which drains us and makes us tired and frustrated and overwhelmed. And we just end up in this cycle of watching more YouTube videos, downloading more vocabulary lists, reading more grammar explanations, and we feel productive. We feel like we're doing all this really, really hard work, but we're getting more and more overwhelmed because it just feels like there's this endless pile of things that we need to learn, and we're never going to get to that point where we're ready to actually speak in English or actually start preparing for the exam. And it just gets delayed and delayed and delayed. And we procrastinate, and we procrastinate, and we procrastinate. And we get more and more confused. And our brain is just getting more and more and more full of all this information. And it just puts us into this freeze mode, no? This play dead, let's hope the lion doesn't eat me. So how do we break this cycle? How do we break this perfectionism? So we know that we're procrastinating. We have this idea of being perfect because we're trying to protect ourselves from these negative emotions, this fear, this anxiety, this uncertainty, this embarrassment, because we want everything to be perfect. We want to be fluent in English. We want to use everything with advanced vocabulary perfectly without making mistakes. But this is the fear, and this is anxiety, and this is embarrassment. So we are protecting ourselves. Our brain is protecting ourselves by over-studying and over-preparing, studying vocabulary, watching lessons, reading explanations, which are all useful. They are all useful, but when we have that implementation stage, okay? So, how can we break the cycle? Okay. So number one, we need to change our way of thinking. We need to have this kind of key psychological shift, a different mindset. Rather than thinking, I need to do this perfectly, we need to change our mindset to, I'm going to try this and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to experiment with this new vocabulary that I've been learning. I'm going to give it a go and I'm going to make mistakes. And if we give ourselves this permission to make mistakes, then we're getting rid of this perfectionism idea. If we are going into a speaking session knowing that we're going to make mistakes, knowing that it's definitely going to happen and it's part of the process, we should be making mistakes, because if we're not making mistakes, we are not pushing ourselves, we're not learning, and we're not improving. So if we go into it with that attitude, then this starts to get rid of the fear and the anxiety of not being perfect, not being good enough, because the purpose of the session is to make mistakes. Okay, by being perfect, then we're not achieving that goal. So this mindset shift, that is a mouthful to say. This mindset shift helps us to get started, to break the cycle of procrastination and perfectionism. Okay, once we get started, what should we be thinking about? We should be thinking about our feedback loop. So we're going to experiment, attempt, try new things. We're going to make errors and get feedback on those errors. We're going to correct them, and then we're going to improve. So for example, if it's with speaking, we're going to learn some new vocabulary, learn some new grammar, or learn a new technique. We're going to, rather than watching thousands of hours of videos or 6 months of a course on everything with the language, we're just going to take that little bit that we learned. We're going to take that little bit and we're going to attempt to use it. We're going to push ourselves to use it, experiment with it, try it in different situations. We're going to make mistakes and get feedback on those mistakes so that then we can then immediately correct and practice it again and improve it and get better. And the more and more we do that, then the more and more comfortable we're going to get with that language so that we can move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing until suddenly we're seeing that improvement. Okay, after being stuck in this learning without implementation for months or even years, suddenly with that implementation, with that action, we're seeing that improvement and progression in our English. The students who improve fastest aren't the ones who wait for the perfect moments, aren't the ones who wait until they're ready or until they have the right level. They're the ones who get started before they feel ready, because you're only going to build that confidence, see that improvement, and actually progress by getting started. There's never a perfect moment. You're never going to feel 100% ready. So if you recognize yourself in some of the things we've talked about today, if you've been waiting for that perfect moment to start, then maybe this is your little sign today. Not to wait until everything is perfect. Just to start. Get messy. Try it out. Because the students who succeed aren't the ones who wait until they feel ready. They're the ones who start and get better along the way. And that is where the real magic happens. That is it for today, folks. I hope you found this useful. If you have, let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat what resonated with you today. And that is it. And we will see you in the next episode next Monday.